All right, we are live, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Lake County. I'm your host, David Rich. I have kind of like just a random episode tonight because I wanted to talk about gerrymandering. And Alexandria, I know, is a very well-educated, well-read, intelligent person. Hello, Alexandria. How are you?
You're being too kind. I try my
No,
best.
you are. You know, I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't think that. Seriously, I don't want somebody coming on here who doesn't know anything that they're talking about. So, she's been helpful on other episodes. She's also a Green Party member. She's running for District 10. And we're going to have you on again and talk about just that, okay? But tonight we're going to talk about gerrymandering. So,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I'm trying to build connections there. Try to get at least one other person there also running for the district if we can.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be a tough road, my friend. So, I will have your back as much as I can. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about gerrymandering because obviously this thing in Texas is just a big, kerfuffle, to put it nicely. The Democrats leaving the state, coming to some in Illinois, some in New York, I heard. It's just a hot button issue right now. And gerrymandering has a very long history. And if I may just start off by telling you the history of it, gerrymandering began in 1812 in Massachusetts, who the governor was Elbridge Gerry. Elbridge Gerry. Sorry, Elbridge. That's the name we need to bring back. That's a cool name. And he redistricted an area that really slanted the election. And people were not happy about it. And there was a newspaper that posted this picture of the way the line was drawn, and it looked like a salamander. So it's gerrymander. That's where the name comes from, which I thought was kind of cool. Just, I thought that was creative. But I also want to point out the distinction between gerrymandering and redistricting. Those are not the same thing. Gerrymandering, bad. Redistricting, good. Redistricting, good, because every 10 years when the census comes out, populations change. They fluctuate. People move away. People move into certain areas, and populations change. So to keep the district counts voting as fair as possible, so that like Cook County isn't just kicking the hell out of DuPage or whatever, they redistrict some of these things to accommodate the populations. And that's good. That we want that makes it a more equitable. It's not going to be perfectly equal. That's not possible, but it makes it a little bit more fair. Gerrymandering is the redistricting due to political bias to favor political parties. And also, Texas is not the only state that has done it. Illinois is notorious for it. Just want you to know that, okay? Including our guy, Mr. Pritzker, whom I generally like. I mean, overall, I would give him a B. That's we all know they do it. It's just that the Democrats tend to be a little more sly about it. The thing that I am impressed with the people from Texas coming on the CNN and stuff talking about it is they're saying it. Yeah, no, we're doing it to advantage our party. That's it. They're totally upfront, outspoken, and honest about it. Whereas the Democrats will be like, well, no, it's because of the district, population flex. Like, no, not always. Don't give me that. So that just kind of gets us up to date on what's going on and like what those two terms mean. What would you like to, what you say there?
And I was actually just sort of contemplating a little bit before we got in this conversation. If you think about it, really, any two-party system, whether they're sly or blatant about it, is going to inherently incentivize the party in power to structure the election in a certain way or redistrict in a certain way to where they're more favorable. Whereas in more multi-party states, that's less of an obvious advantage. You have much more niche circumstances that you need to redistrict, say, to get Green votes in the UK when you've also got Lib Dems and Labour and SNP and Plaid Cymru, depending on which area of the UK you're in. I mean, just to give some stats I wrote down real quick. Let me see where I wrote for the stats. And the new proposal for Texas, just to give some folks some stats, 80% of the population would be represented by Republicans, despite the fact that Trump only got 56% of the vote.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. And not just that, but it's antithetical to democracy, which is what we're supposed to be in the first place.
100%.
And not just that, but it builds further into not only division, but also voter apathy. Because if the district is shaped in a really fucked up way, for lack of a better term, purely just to make electoral benefit, then it no longer, what's the point? You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, I think that's a very good point as far as creating voter apathy. I mean, just like people are frustrated enough. A lot of people don't vote because they think their vote doesn't count. And so when you start doing these sorts of things, then you're telling them that their vote really true. Like we as a politicians think your vote doesn't count. And we're gonna make sure it doesn't count. Yeah, like there was a phrase, like a quote by a poli-sci professor at some college who said that gerrymandering is politicians choosing their voters instead of the voters choosing their politicians, which I thought was very well said. And it's a lot of things too. Is like I remember I think his name is John Harris or Harrison or something, that he's on in the Congress in Texas. One of the people who said blatantly, "Yeah, we're doing this to advantage our party." Mentioned, he's like, how many Republicans are, like 45% of Illinois is Republican, but like, and then he drew another number showing that like Republicans rarely win or whatever it is. One thing he missed, a very important step there. Okay, so the district line boundaries within that district boundary, whichever one, people vote for their Congress people, their senators, their governors, president, so on. You tallied the district by district, and then you add it all up. Okay, so the distribution of the political population, whether it be Republican or Democrat for this instance, is going to be in some areas less or more respectively. So he just said, well, there's this many Republicans in Illinois. Well, that's not how it works. The whole state doesn't vote collectively, uniformly. Okay, so you might have a district like Cook County, which tends to be very Democrat and less Republican. Most major cities in the country are like that, for whatever reason. So that's an important step that he skipped, and that really bothered me, because he was skewing the data to the viewers on CNN or whatever else, just by saying, well, there's this many Republicans in Illinois, but yet they never win. There may be a reason for that, because there's not enough Republicans in each district to tally up enough districts to take the election, right?
I don't think there's any reasonable, unless you did the most absurd computer generated gerrymandered shape possible, that you could divide Illinois into 17 possible districts and not have at least 1 plus 10 Republican and at least 1 plus 10 Democrat, just given how the population is distributed. That's inherent to it. But I mean, actually, speaking of Illinois maps really quickly, I drew just to give a comparison. So here's, hopefully the viewers at home could see it, the current map. You can see some really fun shapes in here. And I just took this, I only took about half an hour, and I haven't been able to get into Chicago. Obviously, this was kind of short notice, but obviously 11 to 17 will be there. And I'm like, boom, right there. It's instantaneously. I don't know why they're bothering. And and the thing is, with again, going back to the sort of two-party system, I'm empathetic to the fact that it's very politically advantageous for both parties to do it, which is also more of the reason why breaking part of the two-party system is so much a big part of my politics, because it's just,
mine too,
whether they're sly or blatant about it, it's inherently going to be a thing. And sort of backtracking a little bit and going back to the redistricting side of the conversation, that's why it's so important to not have your citizenship status on the census data, because we need to have as many people answering that as possible, so we can understand how many people are using the resources of the land, the water, etc. And not only that, but most of those non-documented people pay a lot of fucking taxes too. So that's a whole other conversation. So that's another way in which the Democrats are being attacked from the Republicans as far as redistricting and gerrymandering is concerned. And it goes back and forth every single way. And it incentivizes, let me put it this way, it rewards those on either party that are more aggressive with that. That's the problem.
Right.
If you end up trying to be the one that negotiates when the other guy in their dominant state gerrymanders it to hell, then you're screwed. And I'm surprised, actually, that the Democrats, especially in this state, I mean, although as I've shown, they've definitely gerrymandered it, but even with other states, have put more energy seemingly into like getting third parties off the ballot, when population-wise, they're very popular in cities, so they would benefit a lot from gerrymandering, arguably more than the Republicans, because the majority of the population tends to vote Democrat. But and that's also part of the problem, is that if you think about it, oh my gosh, even from the opposition to this Trump regime, like the main opposition party, it from their internal party logic does not make sense not to do this. That's concerning. That's not a good thing.
No, I agree.
So, but that's where we're at.
Like, I mean, like one of the guys, he said, like, well, the interviewer on CNN or whatever asked some guy, another Texas representative, like, why are you doing it? He said, because we can. He literally, and she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, we can. He's like, other states do it. We can do it. It's not illegal. We're going to do it.
And there's a second part that he's not mentioning, which is that for the Republicans, at least, they have to. If they keep the current districts as are, they will start to lose.
I think it's pretty
Dynamic.
obvious that the reason they're doing this is, I mean, besides the fact that Trump called Greg Abbott and said, I say jump, and Greg Abbott says, well, I can't because I'm in a wheelchair. But
went to Indiana to talk about similar redistricting ideas. Apparently, I just read.
Yeah, that you need to pick up. Like Trump thinks he's entitled to 5 more seats in Texas, and then again, that's the politicians choosing the voters, and not the voters choosing the politicians. Sort of thinking, which is just utterly appalling and disgusting. But then you have a couple of things. I mean, you have like Newsom from California. You have, I don't remember her name, from New York. Or was it Maine? No, New York. And then Pritzker in Illinois. Empty threat, not empty threat. I don't know. Saying, well, if they do it, we're going to do it too. And then we're just going to make like all our districts Democrat, and we're going to and we have a lot more people in our states than you have in Texas. So especially California. I'm not sure about Illinois. I think there's like 8 million people in Texas. So now it's becoming this kind of showdown, which is, I mean, the whole thing's exploding into utter some political theater, but just like moral depravity. Like, I mean, just now threats to do the same thing that you're condemning, and that kind of thing. And I honestly, okay, so I don't know why. Well, I know why the Democratic people from Texas fled Texas is because they can't, in order to stop the quorum. Which means that you couldn't even hold a session if you don't have a certain amount of people in your congressional session. And I'm guessing they have to be, if they're in state, they still count as being present. So they had to leave the state. That's my guess. I haven't heard that
in my lifetime either. They did this during a similar thing. I don't know if it was.
They did it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what that was over, but they've done that before.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was over either. What was I going to say? So this political theater, but the thing is that if the law, let's say the Democrats stayed in Texas, went to the congressional session, voted on it, voted against it, but lost because there was enough Republicans, you can still sue them and take them to court. And if the bill, the act, whatever it's called, is illegal, if it goes against the Voter Rights Act or any other federal act or constitutional something or another, the court's going to shut it down, probably. I mean, unless it's a rigged jury or something like that, which is extremely unlikely. So I don't understand. It really makes me think that Democrats did that for more political theater. Again, going to a state which is notorious, Illinois, for doing the same exact thing, just a lot more hush hush. So it makes me wonder if that is exactly what's happening. They're just sort of doing it for attention. Go ahead.
It could be that. Another thing that I was thinking, and granted, I'm not a Democratic strategist, so I can't get into the impact, and goodness knows I don't want to. But
good for you, yeah.
This seems to kind of be very thematically in common with their idea of slowing everything down. They don't tend to be fiercely opposing with rhetoric or stuff like that, or saying that we're going to block the doors or stuff like that or whatever. Like, I was thinking the other day, this was about a month and a half ago, Schneider was complaining that Rubio left the session, that he was not allowed to. He was legally obligated to sit through the whole session. I'm like, why didn't a couple of congressmen just sit and block the door, like non-violently, just say, hey, you have to wait and hear us. You don't have to vote with us or even enact our policies, but you're legally obligated to hear us. Like, stuff like that. They won't do that, but they'll try to do legal stuff like this, challenge it in the courts and stuff like that, because I think their main strategy for everything is they're just viewing it as slow it down, and they're not even trying to think, oh, we can beat it. They've sort of already conceded that point, I think, from their perspective. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This might be me being too generous to them, but that's at least what I read it as immediately when you started describing it. I'm like, oh, that seems to fit a current pattern that I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what was I gonna say? Oh, I know Trump's threatening to sick the FBI on the Democrats, and what does that mean? Yeah. You're gonna arrest them? You're gonna arrest them and force them back to a place where they don't want to be? What? You're actually going to do that? I mean, that's just craziness. I don't know if that'll actually happen, but I guess the head of the FBI said that he was up for it.
Honestly, at this point, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's mad world indeed.
It is a mad world.
It really turned into a race to the bottom. That's I think another thing that you were sort of getting at very poignantly there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Both parties basically
Which
saying they're going to
one of us?
the other, that becoming like a point of political strategy. And that's, again, like I was saying earlier, the part of the sad point.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So, yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I know there was a friend of mine or a friend through Facebook who posted the other day. He's like, "Do you believe what California and Illinois are saying they're going to do?" And I'm like, they're going to do it for revenge or political, spite or whatever else. I'm like, dude, that's what why Texas is doing it. And he's like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, okay. So like, everybody calm down. Everybody calm down. Like, gain perspective. Okay, so, but everybody's choosing sides, of course, and that's how politics goes. And like you mentioned earlier, it's just, which is very important, and I don't think anybody's talking about this, of course, but as that it's just another show of strength and power of the duopoly over every other party. Besides just like the absolute disgusting unfair ballot access laws in just about every state. Now this is another one, like, we're the duopoly, and look what we can do to each other. We're the strong ones and everything else. And that's a scary thing. I just had Anthony Vega, the Lake County clerk, on last week. I think we talked about
watching that.
Did you watch that one? Yeah, about third party ballot. And he was sympathetic to everything I said. He agreed. We need ranked choice voting. We need more options, everything. And he's a diehard Democrat. Well, I shouldn't say diehard. He's definitely a Democrat. I don't know.
He's definitely does not work for the Democrat Party for sure.
Yeah. But he's good. He's very well informed. He's a smart guy. He knew his stuff. I love Anthony. So, okay, very cool. Yeah. Again, Alexandria, thanks for coming on last minute. I just want to have a brief chat to make sure that Lake County residents had an opportunity, if they so choose to watch this, to understand a little bit more about what's going on in detail and clarify what's happening. Because a lot of people, I don't even know how many people in the general public, and I'm not trying to be a condescending jerk, but I'm not sure how many people know what the phrase gerrymandering is.
Yeah, the thing is, there's so many things in life to be distracted with consumerism and actual life stuff and things like that, that while we both understand that gerrymandering impacts your life, there are a lot of things that you could worry about and have a busy life and never come into the term gerrymandering.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because the notion of redistricting happens once every 10 years. And that's hard to keep track of when it happens so infrequently, that kind of thing. Like you said, people are busy doing their, living their lives. And that's one of the benefits of like a representative democracy is that you hire people to do the things so you can live your life, so you don't have to pay attention to all politics all day, every day. That would be a drag. So yeah, cool. All right, Alexandria Keating-Sofiakis. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for coming on again. You're my go-to. Whenever I need somebody to come on and talk intelligently. I appreciate it.
I thank you very much.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk Lake County. Till next time, keep talking. Hold on a second, Alexander. We got a new button here. Oop, wait, hold on. I'm doing the wrong thing. There you go.